We have raised a $3.7 million seed round for Harbor, and my co-founder and I have been working on this for almost 2 years. Just launched our pre-orders and first shipments this summer. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur. It's a very challenging time to raise capital, but a great time to be launching and building a business.
Today on the show, I'm happy to have Kevin Lavelle. He's the CEO of Harbor, as well as Mizzen+Main. So Harbor is on a mission to redefine what it means to be a happy, healthy family. Mizzen+Main, they make the most comfortable menswear on the market. So Kevin, what's the revenue overall of Mizzen+Main over the years?
Yeah, very proud. We've done hundreds of millions of dollars since I started the business, and we're continuing to grow at double digits, which is great, especially in this very difficult 2024 environment for us to still be growing and doing so profitably. It's an exciting time.
And then you've also raised some capital for the newer venture, Harbor. What was that number?
We've raised a $3.7 million seed round for Harbor, and my co-founder and I have been working on this for almost 2 years. We just launched our pre-orders and first shipments this summer. Another comment that I could say is very exciting time. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur. It's a very challenging time to raise capital, but a great time to be launching and building new businesses.
And how many employees do you have running the two companies?
We have over 100 employees at Mizzen+Main, and at Harbor right now we are at 11.
And then what year did you actually found Mizzen+Main?
We started Mizzen+Main in 2012.
So you have been scaling products businesses for a while now.
Yes.
How is it you go about picking a product, prototyping it, even building it?
So there are some people who I have an idea a minute and they just can't stop thinking up new ideas. I've had a few ideas, not many, but the two best ones I feel like I've now dedicated most of my life to building. With Mizzen+Main, I had this idea for many years. I grew up playing golf. I'm wearing Mizzen+Main's polos right now. I watched performance polos take over on the golf course and wondered why no one had ever made a dress shirt performance pattern. That was the impetus behind wanting to start Mizzen+Main, and we could talk about a little of the journey there. And with Harbor, I bought the leading product on the market for my son when he was born. It's a company called Nanit. It's a Wi-Fi camera with an app on your phone. And I woke up one morning and the app had just crashed. And then I learned you can't actually rely on apps on phones to be baby monitor. They're not monitors. It's just a Wi-Fi camera. And I've wanted to build something that is better for parents and kids ever since that happened. My son was born 7.5 years ago. Both of the companies were moments that happened to me that I thought there has to be a better way. And then talking to some advisors and experts along the way, and plenty of whom told me it'll never work. It's not an idea worth pursuing. And I was right about the first one, and I think I'll be right about the second one.
How have you been able to get the notability, that brand recognition with launching these products?
So with Mizzen+Main, I'd never started a company. I'd never even interviewed somebody, let alone hired them or run a P&L. It was a lot of trial and error out of the gate. With Mizzen+Main, it was basically made 1,000 shirts, and I went out and tried to start selling them and figuring out what was working and what was resonating. And that was, it took a while to start to get some sort of resonance. One of the first major kind of wins in the world of Mizzen+Main was pro athletes, because the shirt stretches, it's moisture wicking, it's wrinkle free. You don't have to iron it and dry clean it. It's great for travel. Athletes loved that product. And so we started to get this massive uptake in the world of pro athletes. And that helped a lot because at the time we didn't have that many styles. And so a lot of our customers were recognizing that some of the pro athletes that they loved were wearing our shirts. And then we ended up doing an endorsement deal with JJ Watt a couple of years in and sponsored Tim Ferriss's podcast. Those were athletes. JJ Watt and Tim Ferriss were the things that pivoted the business, and we really started to take off. And then with Harbor,
a quick message from our sponsors. I want to thank SKUTRU for sponsoring the FTS podcast. It's a great tool for e-commerce sellers. I've had an e-commerce business for over a decade now, and I just needed something out of the box to get the job done quickly. And what I found with SKUTRU is that it takes my products on Amazon and very quickly and seamlessly moves them to my markets on eBay and Walmart. This is a solution I wish I had sooner. Now back to our episode with Mizzen+Main.
With Harbor, we just launched the business in terms of pre-sales here this summer. We've done a couple of things. It's been 6 months of telling people who we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing it. We've got some great blog content. We've been putting out some really great sleep guides and interviews with experts and pediatric sleep experts. And then also just frankly telling our story. I started this company and I've spent 2 years building it because the leading product on the market failed my family. And then I realized that it's failing everyone's family. And since we've started, we've heard from countless families they just are so frustrated with these Wi-Fi baby cameras with an app on their phone. And so it's been getting out there and repeating what we're doing and why we're doing it, showing up day in and day out. And we've got some really exciting partnerships that we'll be announcing very soon over the course of the summer into the fall with some major ambassadors and moms that are fired up to represent the brand and product. So repeating some of the lessons learned from Mizzen+Main with Harbor. And ultimately, it's a very different world because when I started Mizzen+Main, Instagram was barely a thing. And now it's one of the biggest drivers of commerce in the world.
And you have done really well with forming these celebrity partnerships. How do you go about approaching it or putting them together?
It's somewhat cliche to say, but each one is very different. And then there are some common threads. In terms of my time at Mizzen+Main, what helped was a lot of pro athletes were wearing our product, and I was hearing from their agents, and there were some small deals, there were some big deals that were potentially being discussed, but it ultimately came down to when we partnered with JJ, I looked across the landscape and said, who would be a great kind of representative of Mizzen+Main? And looked at a couple different athletes and talked to a few different agents. Some of them said no right away. And some of them said, hey, I think we've got conflict with another apparel provider. And along that dialogue, along that timeframe, I formed a good relationship with JJ's agent. He's become a good friend over the years. And ultimately, it was the right time, was the right balance, because he was a major sponsored athlete of Reebok. We worked competitive with Reebok, and I knew the Reebok people from the CrossFit world. And so they were okay with us partnering with him. So it really was a lot of kind of fortuitous things happening simultaneously. And then was frankly a relentless pursuit of, I just need to get in front of him. I just need to get in front of him because he's got so many things happening. So you got to catch the people at the right time in the right place. With Harbor, I have been talking with agents because of my time at Mizzen+Main. I know most agents in most agencies, I can at least get a hold of them. And having had success with Mizzen and prior athlete partnerships, they're willing to listen. And so I've built relationships over the last 2 years. And with something as sensitive as a baby monitor, people want to see it live. They want to see it work. And so we have been nurturing those relationships and begun shipping the product so that the parents can experience it to see, hey, is this something I want to endorse? And so really it's about finding a way without getting to sit down and have a meal together and build a relationship. How do you form the basis of a relationship and trust to say, yes, I'm willing to consider attaching my personal brand as a mother to this product. And so it's been, some of these conversations have been going on for over a year, and that's understandable given the nature of what we're doing and they want to see it out in the wild. And I think we're pretty close. So we've got some really good conversations happening right now. I'm looking forward to announcing them very soon.
Yeah, it's really good to hear. And I know on the path to building these businesses doesn't always work as planned. So what are some of the failing to success instances you've experienced so far?
Yeah. So one of the biggest failures that we had in our very earliest days, one of the fabrics that we had at Mizzen, I was ordering product, making product, ordering product, making product. And I found this like small swatch of fabric. And I thought, oh, that's really cool fabric. We should make a shirt out of that. And I got some fabric, like I got 3 yards of the fabric. I had one made, I wore it, I washed it. It was great. I prototyped it, tested it. I moved very quickly with no expertise at the time. And then we ordered a couple thousand yards of fabric, made a couple thousand shirts, and the shirt pilled really easily and pilled. If you think about, easiest example is think about sweater, and you've got like a thread that comes up off the sweater. That's expected and something that people are used to when it comes to a sweater, not when it comes to a dress shirt. And I reached out we made thousands of them. And we started to get a couple complaints, and I reached out to the person I bought the fabric from, and I said, what is the deal with this fabric? And he goes, oh yeah, that pills really badly. You didn't ask me for a pill test though. I was like, I had to ask you if the fabric could be worn normally. Are you kidding me? And that was one of those moments in the early days. Thank God we were still small, very small of product. Anyone that experienced a problem, we just refunded their purchase. That was one of those things where you don't know what you don't know until you encounter it. And that sales rep absolutely should have said, hey, I know what you're selling. I know what you're making. Let me warn you, this might not be what you want. Let me direct you in this one. But he was all too happy to just take the order and rolling it. There were moments like that along the way. I was like, man, I've just never experienced that before. And thankfully, the mistakes that we made were generally small enough that we could recover from them. Another great example, I'll say somewhat failing forward, but more so a painful learning lesson. The first person that I ever had to fire, Mizzen+Main, really enjoyed, I'm not even going to say gender. It was a person that I really enjoyed working with, great in so many ways, but reached a point where culturally and some things that were said, we just hadn't worked with. And I'd never fired anybody before because again, interviewed someone, hired them, or run a P&L. And when I sat down, it's just really not working out anymore to be here. And he said, I don't understand what's going on. And 7 different ways, I just couldn't bring myself to say, you no longer have a job here. Unfortunately, I have to let you go. And I had a friend with me who was a part of the company at the time. And this person ended up saying that we were letting go. Are you firing me? And I was like, oh, no. And the other person was, yes, you're fired. And that I just never crossed that chasm before. And I'd never said that before. And I felt terrible. I felt like it was my fault. I felt like I hadn't done enough. But ultimately, it was a learning lesson for me that sometimes people are just not the right fit for the company and they do things that justify the separation. And it changed aspects of how I look to manage people moving forward. But then very importantly, it changed how I had those conversations, including learning from legal things that I should say, should not say, because there's a lot. But that level of concise, you're not going to get people to understand typically in those conversations. You need to be respectful and fair. And you need to do the work ahead of time so that if you ever have to have that conversation, then you've done your job ahead of time. So those are 2 painful memories that I think back on and really cringe. And as I said, more painful lessons and failures over the years that I could count, but ultimately they were thankfully each of them was small enough that we could recover. And that is a blessing of building a business from the ground up, is you can learn along the way. You're not immediately put in charge of something one small mistake could actually bring.
If any of our listeners wanted to look at either the products, like Mizzen+Main or Harbor, how could they do so or get in touch, learn more?
Yeah. So, such a privilege to be able to be involved with 2 great companies. Our mission at Harbor is happier parents and healthier families by helping parents sleep and helping kids sleep. So at harbor.co, that's HARBOR.co, we have a ton of free resources. We have a massive infant sleep guide and a toddler sleep guide, interviews with experts, lots of tips, lots of suggestions, and that will continue to grow. So harbor.co, a lot of great free resources, along with our baby monitor product and access to sleep coaching. And then at Mizzen+Main, Mizzen+Main.com, MIZENANDMAIN.com. We've got some never ending selection of really great products, great athlete endorsements, great content to put out as well. All the socials at Mizzen+Main. And then for Harbor, it's at Harbor Sleep on all the socials as well.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for coming on the show, and everybody for listening to another episode of Failing to Success. If you like the show, make sure to subscribe. I'm your host, Chad Kalecki. We'll see you next time.